Where are you going, Kim? Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for this. I figured we could look at the agenda briefly. Sabrina's here. We wanted to spend a little bit of time once more looking at the board governance performance evaluation. Work through that a little bit. I think we can very quickly get through the new board member orientation packets.
Yeah.
And take a look at our development that we started at our last meeting. And the last thing that's not on here, but is sort of part of the plan for future meetings. Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, in February, we have the opportunity to bring our edits that we've made to the board in February.
Correct.
And then again in March to ratify.
Correct.
There's a two-step process there.
Yes.
So I'm hoping to, whatever we have completed today will be packaged up to bring to the board in February and then March.
Okay,
To approve the work that we have already done.
right.
I don't know whether agenda development will be part of that or not, depends on the progress we make today. But I'm hoping to check out a couple of other things. And we've already checked off all of this stuff that's in the BPM from our previous meetings. So with that, board governance performance evaluation. So do you want to give us an overview of where we're at, or do you want me to take a stab at that?
Well, if you have opening comments, I would
Not
of course defer
really.
to you.
Yeah. I can do a summary, but you can probably do a better summary.
And, okay, you
Yeah.
can do that. And then, well, did you want any preliminary context to this in our TPM process?
So you're all aware, we've talked about KPMs as a whole board for a while, but this is the board's KPM process. You guys can, the goal is to make it your own. It takes a process and to get there, you can add things to it. To get rid of the stuff you don't want to do, we have to go through a formal process for that. So if there's things in here that are not fit in your evaluation of efficiencies, those are things worth highlighting. And then we're gonna have another discussion in February at the retreat around KPMs for all 12 as a global thing and
For the
along
department,
for the
department KPM,
Yes.
which
And
are
this-
different than.
And this is one of the this is KPM number 2 in the departments list. So we have a little crossover.
Mhm.
We're trying to work through. We want you guys to own your measures of efficiency and your metrics there. And then we're going to work the process and some findings in that portion. So this is just continuing the conversation as we work through the portion, but making sure it's tailored to what you need to determine if you're effective or not.
So, with that preface about the overall KPMs, and this being KPM 2, in your board policies manual, on page 7 is just where I'm gonna anchor into here. And for the record, I apologize. My name is Sabrina Perez. I'm the strategic advisor for agency administration. And in my role, I do the KPM coordination for the entire agency, as well as administer your KPM 2 and another as well. So on page 7, you have an entire section there about board performance evaluation. And there's 3 separate elements that you use to evaluate the board's performance. And this specifically, your KPM is listed in 3.12.2. And there is an additional procedures document that is referenced there as addendum G. It is also in the table of addenda at the end of your board policies manual as an item that has not yet been completed. And so my task here today was simply to bring you the addenda. And I have done that as the addenda G, it's a 1-page document. Pretty simple procedures for how can you as a board perform this annual governance process in line with your standard scheduled meetings, as well as be able to have time to, in a more informal fashion, reflect upon that. That has been built into this timeline, as well as the specific deliverables that come out of it in terms of decisions. And all been able to ensure that this annual process can be performed in the same timing that allows us to include this as a legislative KPM in your annual KPM report that gets delivered to the legislature each September. let's see, there's two attachments with that. The two attachments, first one is simply the actual self-evaluation criteria that you review as the reading. And then the second one is an optional one, should you decide that you want to modify these or add to it. I created a form a couple of years ago that would allow you to be able to provide input on that via email to me, and I can synthesize and summarize it to bring it to you in a completed package for better discussion. So those are simply the three items worked together as a package, intended that it would be your addenda G to your board policies manual that we would keep updated for you all based on elements that you want in it. I came here today bringing the standard that we have been doing. Of course, this is, as Tim mentioned, though, that there's full desire for you to own this and it to be your own measurement of performance. We do have the standard 15 questions on there that we are still required to do every year and ask for the board to ask themselves each year and evaluate your own performance on that for reporting to the legislature until it's changed. So with that,
Thank you.
you bet.
That is great. I mean, I think just looking at this, the first thing that you've done is you've switched from the strongly agree, agree, disagree, strongly disagree, that sort of 4 points.
I didn't switch it up.
Okay, am I just,
There's alternatives, it's both. And the second one is auction.
I see. So we still would do this. This would be in addition to, there would be another.
That is a form that you use if you decide that through your retreat discussions, if you would like to change it, if any one of these criteria doesn't make any sense anymore.
Got it.
I could either come back to a January meeting and give you that and provide that form as an attachment to fill out, or it could be further emailed as a document so that then each board member could contribute their thoughts and submit it into us, that we can provide you a thorough evaluation, a summary of all of your comments. It basically allows you to contribute to the process outside of a public meeting by sending them individually to me, and I can emphasize everyone's thoughts.
Now, is this, I've always struggled with the sort of 4 strongly agree, but strongly disagree. Is this mandated as part of that?
So that's a great question. The original mandate was a yes, no.
Got it.
Okay. And then what happened is the Board of Forestry created a governance subcommittee, much like yourselves, in 2006 to fully adopt this performance measure. And through that, they decided that they wanted to tailor each individual question, as well as turn it into a Likert scale that would give the range of strongly agree to strongly disagree. And so that was an intended decision by that governance subcommittee, who then brought it to the full board for approval and adoption in 2007, if I recall the exact year. And it has not changed in that degree since. It's been continued on. So you have that many years of data should you want. And if you would desire, in any case, to go back to a yes, no, that would be something that would be, say, brought up at a retreat, a discussion and then potentially considered as a change.
Got it.
We would have to formally capture that as a decision to make the change.
Yeah. Personally, some of these feel like yes, no's. Some of them feel like they're more tailored to this Likert scale. Filling this out in the past, I have always struggled sometimes with executive director's performance expectations are current, agree, maybe strongly agree, like that is a yes or no.
I don't know what current means though.
Or it has been evaluated in the last year. That's a lesser no. That's a yes or no, like strongly agree or agree on that. Whereas the board is appropriately involved in review of agency's key communications. That seems like a Likert scale works quite well. Where there's some discretion. So I'm wondering if one change that might be helpful would be to not have a Likert scale for each question, but only on some of the questions.
like reorder them and then and regroup them. And then you can have yes, nos for these and scales for the rest.
Yeah.
I don't even know that you would need to do that. It's just as you're asking the questions, it may be different as the question I have real quickly, if our target is 100%, does agree get you to 100% or only strongly agree?
Agree and strongly agree gets you to the 100%.
I see. Okay. Fine. And then these things, and there's some of these, I totally agree with you. Some of them are best suited to like a narrative. But these summary questions for consideration, 1, 2, 3 at the end, are we given the opportunity to offer narrative answers to those? Is that how that works?
Yes, and actually within each criteria as well, there is a comment.
There is.
Yeah.
And so the design and intent.
I guess I did this once already. I offered something. I mostly said I didn't know. Like I didn't, for example, the performance expectations are current. I didn't even know what the performance expectations were. So it's like,
When you complete this survey as a board member, you are sending it strictly to me. I keep it confidential, and you see a compiled summary in June that has all of the answers and all of the comments. However, they're not attributed to any one author. It's intended to be anonymous in that way, to allow you to be very candid in what you want to say about it. And then once the retreat comes around, then the discussions can be more flexible and open, could be elaborated upon if a board member wanted to take ownership over that comment and add to it.
so try not to lead my answers with as a representative of a giant lumber company.
It is your discretion. Anonymity. You've probably done it 5 years now. Some years, some board members choose to write comments that are easily attributable. Sometimes they're more generic.
Yes, that's
So-
To a degree, and then what is actually reported to the legislature on this, I think that's an important piece, is truly just the percentage of the 15 standard metrics. The board added one additional metric, is the last one, number 16. And so that's not included in the percentage rating that of your target of 100%. It's not included in the compilation. It's shown for you to see as a comparison, but the actual metric that is reported to the legislature is the 15 only. And then your comments are used to help me draft a narrative that makes sense to explain the whys of the variation.
To the legislature.
Oh, I see.
So you would give them a number and a narrative in your report.
And I draft the narrative.
And so the legislature looks at this and they're like, how do they use it? Like, are they contrasting us against other bodies, like in their results?
So when we
Yeah.
go through, it's part of our biennial budget process, so we'll turn that in with our biennial budget, our agency request budget. It kind of follows that similar timeline. So it does go to the legislative fiscal office, and it's a part of that giant package along with like our span of control documents. And
But what's the consequence if we're like at 30% versus 100%?
it depends on what the legislature would want to raise on that. What we have commonly is like our fire control percentage. That's a common one that they might address. And when we do our budget presentations in February of those even years, we'll have or odd years, when we are in front of our subcommittees, we'll include our KPMs in our budget presentation.
Yeah, I've just never, ever seen this one come up.
Another interesting thing, since you mentioned that all KPMs are brought to the legislature in this packet with the biennial budget, the targets are also adjusted for each KPM based upon an LFO and CFO recommendation that's provided with our biennial budget. However, since the board decided that your target was 100% for KPM 2, it continues to be supported and it won't change unless you all wanted to change that target and decided.
And our results last time around or what?
I unfortunately did not bring
They've
that,
gone down.
but
I mean, I think we were in the 80, 90%. This last year was 70-ish something, I want to say. I personally like having 100% as your target, knowing that you probably won't ever meet it, but having that as a target, that's how I run a lot of things.
Works for me, provided there are consequences.
Yes, a lot of KPMs are designed as the intended achievements. We've pick on fire. Fire used to be 95, then it went to 97. Now it's at 98% under 10 acres. So they do, as you meet those achievables, they do move them up as that's the target that you're striving for. So with you guys setting your own percentage at it, and
Yeah, we're just
you can
giving it
choose
a bunch
which
of,
one.
yeah.
I think it's worth also explaining that when the board set the 100% percentage target, the board also had more meetings in sequence. And this was presented in June and July as a full board discussion item, which meant if there was disagreement, which happens on one of these criteria, the board could talk about it and deliberate to move the needle to 100%.
And
Like-
then change the result.
Sure, because sometimes, it may be last year I saw one of the marks was that there was a disagreement that the annual KPM report had made it. But I know that the KPM report had been submitted each year. And so that was one that could have been negotiate or discussed.
Discussed and
and then
updated.
potentially negotiated as a decision to say, actually, we did get that. We believe that one should be in agreement. And
That seems like an important process check. Does that work with the proposed schedule we've got?
it does, because actually last year was one of the more complicated ones where I actually provided 3 separate alternatives in what your rating would be, because we made this, there was a switch made in about 5 years ago to give the board the exact percentage that they reflected upon in a consent agenda item. The July Board of Forestry meeting was taken off of the schedule, no longer conducted. There was no longer an opportunity to have the same full robust discussion in July before this got submitted to the legislature in the September report. And so with that, there was less opportunity to adjust your percentage. This last year, because I saw that the percentage came in so low as a board, I offered 3 different alternatives of what your rating could be. And it would require you to take the item off your consent agenda and say, well, we believe that this many of them could be at this percentage, and it would, so you had some alternatives presented to you. And this item.
There's room in that June board meeting to do that.
Yes, so
Yeah.
there is, it does require taking it off of.
We'll get to the agenda development topic.
But
That is, hold on, go ahead.
no, I just wanted to characterize that by providing those alternatives, that was just, it was a creative moment where I'm trying to figure out how can you still do that without the meeting time and discussion time. And so I want to keep that moving forward as an example.
Yeah.
If this KPM remains the same, you always have that tool
Mhm.
to say, well, actually we did, and that would change.
And I think that is actually really helpful the way you explained it to me just now, because I remember when that came along and I was hesitant to sort of negotiate a better outcome because it felt like this was subjective and it felt like sort of skewing the results. But that's I think the rub is that some of these are binaries and some of these are not. And for the binaries, like it was a yes or no question that some of us didn't get right. Yeah, I can see how we might want to come back to that and get it to yes. But if we just fundamentally disagree on some things, well, it's taken a snapshot in time and maybe we improve subsequently. But it just feels different to try to negotiate an improvement on subjective things versus objective things, to me. Which I think splitting out the way they're answered, I think would be helpful if that would be possible.
Absolutely. As we kind of prefaced this,
Yeah.
or this can be something that the board fully owns and recommends
Yeah.
proposed changes to our methodology and how we do it. And so at this point, the request is to kind of keep standard, like what we've been doing moving forward,
Mhm.
because there is that formal process to propose changes
Mhm.
that is going to be discussed at a future retreat,
Mhm.
and an opportunity to look at all KPMs too. But to the degree that we can take this back, I'm just kind of trying to think about that space and how we can collect that feedback to present it to the whole board.
Yeah, these are interesting for, just again, so that I understand the background. The bolded text here on this document is the same for every agency.
Exactly.
And that's why they're using executive director.
Exactly.
And in 2006, when the board adopted this, they included this italicized text to interpret that bolded text in the context of the board's forestry.
Exactly.
And so this is pretty thoughtful that they put this together. There's a couple of things that appear to me that I would have thought would have been included that are not. In 2006, did they have a conversation about, obviously they had this number 16, but one example, if I'm going to gauge the, Board of Forestry's performance, which I think is what this is,
Mhm.
I would ask like, are the members working collaboratively and in good faith, right? Like, or something like that. And that's not a question that's here presently. So I don't know, is the chair effectively facilitating meetings? That's a little provocative, but
No, it's
You know,
spot on for
that's-
something like this.
yeah, and it's not presently in here. And so I wonder, is there a reason? I would have thought the legislature would have wanted that in here. Why isn't there any kind of introspective board assessment here?
Number 12 is sort of that. Board members act in accordance with their roles as public representatives.
I would have thought though that
Yes,
that's kind of
there.
like outside. You're right. It's in the same general theme, but is the board functioning well is not really, none of those questions are here.
And so you're absolutely correct. And this similar conversation and sentiment has been expressed at multiple board retreats in reflecting upon what else could the board ask themselves and how else could the board measure their performance. And so there's absolutely been a continual invitation to add more to this. And if the board would like to evaluate any one of those items, it could. And that's actually why the attachment 2 was created as an option. And you'll look at just that there's plenty of opportunity to propose new questions for evaluation. And the idea would be that you could, we could track comments from the retreat and bring them forward. And we could also take individual specific questions. If you wrote a question that you thought the board should be asking, you could submit it to me in a form. I bring it back to you as part of the annual process, and you could start asking that of yourself, basically, if the whole board approved that you wanted to ask that question.
So I may have a proposal, just knowing the sequencing of events and some of the timing. This attachment 2, I don't know how often it's been used. Yeah, so there may be an opportunity, because, you're going through this discussion of actually having, if you all would like, of the department can send this out to board members prior to the retreat.
Yeah.
With the request of the board governance committee would like the board members to look through this to help facilitate the conversation for KPM 2, because that's already on the agenda and the plan. And then we can prepare some of those things. And to your point of understanding even what the italics mean, language changes over 20 years.
I'm a little like, that raises some governance issues too, though, like to the degree that, we do it on an ad hoc basis. That is to say, as opposed to building it into the, structure of the attachment 1, I can envision a circumstance where you have a lone board member who has like a gajillion questions that wants to layer into this. And then you're going to have to go, well, shoot, do I include these? Do I not? How many people have to request the same question in order for it to be included on the survey? how similar do they have to be? It's gonna kind of require you squint, and I wonder if it's appropriate, at least for the kind of theme I mentioned earlier, for us to bring a couple ideas to the board as just kind of foundational questions we propose be included every year.
Yeah, no, I am in complete agreement that I think we should rebake this cake and then call it good and not reopen it every time. But I think us bringing some suggestions and also probably dropping this around to the rest of the board members
Yeah,
to
right.
get their feedback for this update,
Yeah,
I think would be really
I
helpful.
actually agree with it.
But then it's baked
Yeah,
and the next board governance meeting.
and then we can.
Like now can deal with it.
We can ad hoc then make the decision whether we want to use attachment two. But I don't think that we would do that in the ordinary course.
That's actually how this is presented, is
Yeah.
where the attachment 2 is purely an option, and it's asterisked on the 1 page of procedures. As attachment 2 comes into play when the board wants to do something different.
Yes, on an individual year. Yes, that's right. And that works.
Then it comes out into play, and then that's when it's used as a tool. And the reason, so to get at your comment about one board member having additional questions, it would allow me to take that feedback from, say, an October retreat, and then receive that feedback in, say, November and December, be able to work on it and get it to you for a January board discussion. And so then we may reserve half an hour of time for the board as a full discussion to say, oh, that's a lot of questions, or, we want those questions to move forward. We do actually want to adjust our performance evaluation going into this next cycle. And so you could have a public discussion in January, which is, that's why it's also asterisked on here as the option. And then I would return in March. March is when you make the decision to say, this is it. This is what we're going to evaluate ourselves on. And once you make that decision, then it's kind of locked in for the year.
Fine. I still think though that, board time is precious. And if we could get to an agreement about what the standard list of questions is presently and have that included in attachment 1, then we could create kind of an expectation with the board that absent extraordinary circumstances, we're not going to chew up a bunch of January time.
this
on
is-
additional questions.
I think having it in our back pocket is nice,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, this one has lasted 20 years and
Exactly.
it's honestly, if we didn't make any changes, we would be okay.
Yeah, fine.
Right. We're here, we've opened it up, we're looking at it, we might as well make some tweaks. But so I think, and I think this is a great tool to use to make those tweaks, but I don't envision needing to pull this out
Right.
very often.
Right. I agree. Do you agree?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, so like, I think that works pretty well. And then the question is, do we today want to grapple with, those kinds of questions, or do you first want to kind of pull all of us? As the board governance committee chair, it seems like with your help, Sabrina, you could pull the board and say, hey, I'm thinking about, some, the addition of a couple questions along these lines. How do you feel about that? Are we missing anything important that would be included here? And then we could follow up with this at our next PGC meeting.
Yeah, I don't know that this needs to go in front of the board at the retreat.
Yeah, the question I guess
I
is,
think this could happen behind the scenes, probably just fine.
what's our timeline, I guess? Because this year, if we're gonna do it, basically, it's gotta be sent out
Right.
in March. And
Didn't you say this is on the agenda for the retreat? Did you say that?
The full KPMs
Full
are
KPMs,
on
yeah. So this is part of,
So that's our.
I'd like to save room. I think there's a lot of other KPMs that are much, much more important than KPM 2.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we need to muddy the waters at the retreat with KPM 2 in any great way. I think this can be done over email. I mean, I like Pete's idea of sending it out to the board members and, separately and say, provide feedback. And we as a committee we're not gonna get this baked by March. Because it has to go through 2 rounds of board meetings.
Yeah.
So
I
we're
agree.
using our
We're probably
current
gonna
one
have to
for
use
this
this.
year.
I think that's right.
And the board governance committee will keep working through it and
Yes.
for next year, we'll have an
Extra year.
update.
Yeah, I agree. That's fine. I do.
It'll be part of our, any proposed changes would be part of the 29-31 biennial budget for the department.
Uh,
Can I restate, make sure I'm doing it right too, just to make sure. So what I heard right is that, intent to continue on with the governance process the same for this year, the same evaluation questions as the ones that are here.
Because it's not possible for us to amend
Right.
this on a
Yeah.
relevant time.
Right,
Yeah.
right. No, just want to make sure.
Mhm.
And then say, going into the retreat, when KPM2 will be listed as one of many at the KPM discussion, there's no intent to speak at length about changes. We're going to continue on at this time
Mhm.
as normal. However, at some point, what I'm hearing is that you would like the board to consider.
Yes, maybe we could bring it in. Is June the right one?
I mean, we could allude to it in February.
Yeah.
In June, you'll get your summary from this year.
Yeah.
And
That would be a good time to, we've gone through it, we're looking at the summary, perfect time to solicit feedback on, for soliciting feedback. for
You might mark that on your piece of paper to remind Jim that that would be a good agenda topic for him here at KPM too.
yeah, so instead of a consent item, it would be
Yeah.
then brought as a
Yes,
discussion.
maybe then they'll bring back some proposed changes to
Mhm.
attachment 1.
And I like your couple that you suggested, we'll
Yes.
have those included.
And then, so in June, it could, this form would then possibly be further passed out to the full board to consider and think about.
Prior to
Maybe ahead of the
the
June meeting,
meeting, yes.
or would, I'm just thinking,
Just in the board packet.
if it was ahead of time and they filled it out and.
Well, no,
It would give us,
we're gonna do the survey.
Yeah.
Like in advance, well in
Right.
advance, and we're gonna see those
no, we're
results.
talking about,
Exactly, right.
Yes.
But this thing here, I think you will have polled the board. We will have had another governance committee meeting to kind of settle on what we propose as
Mhm.
additional questions on attachment 1. And then you will be in a position to present those to the board in the June board. meeting.
Yeah.
And because you're in that position, you will be able to put in the board packet the proposal,
proposed.
right?
Yeah.
For the additional questions.
That sounds great.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Quick point of order, I was just reading through this. There's 2 criteria here. We meet one of the 2 criteria now.
So,
Or is this still applied to us?
yes, and so what Ben is referring to is the boards and commissions best practice measure. So this is when the measure first came out, as defined by the legislature. It's that document, and it talks about who is impacted. And there's some interpretation here. We were originally in the list, and all boards and commissions were required to do this in KPM. And
Oh,
so,
yeah.
so
Second bullet.
Yes.
Changed. it.
right, so the second bullet has changed, and interesting enough, I had read bullet number 1 for the longest time in one way, and then Tim offered a different perspective to me this morning as well, and so
Do we have an independent state budget?
Don't, so if you think of other boards and commissions, we have the Public Utilities Commission, they have staffing, they have their own budget line items. They have their own presentations to they get an allocation from the legislature for their business. The Oregon Liquor Commission has their own budget. So that's the type of view of, and that's where we talked, it's a little bit of exploring. Are you boxed into the state process or are you?
Because I mean,
That's right.
yeah, if we could just be removed from this, then we have carte blanche to do what we want.
So that's some of the exploration portions of.
Which may be a lot of this.
That's a
Right.
question. Is that a question?
They
for
may
Matt
not,
or-
they may not be the best practices are best practices for a reason. You may just
Yeah.
maybe do 6 of the 16 or whatever.
Exactly right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So
And is that a question that you can propose to LFO?
that's what we'll be looking at. That's so the LFO made a statement in our subcommittee hearing back in June around directing the department to review our KPMs. We also have an executive order
Does
that's
PTO just come off?
Yeah, so looking at who owns it, and is it a department KPM, is it a board KPM, or is it something, and where that is? So that's one of the exploratory questions that the department's undergoing, as we overlook all 12 of our current ones. You know, KPM 2 is yours, but it's also our number 2.
Can we get
One
an
of those.
answer to that question in advance of that June board meeting?
Yes,
Right?
hope to have an answer by
Shapes,
June for sure. Yeah.
that shapes what you would propose.
Yeah, yeah, because if it is just us for ourselves, we probably, and not that I would change it too much, but it's, are you some more autonomy? Yeah.
Yeah, instead of executive director, you just write state forester.
So, yeah, can you guys control your own destiny and what you need to be efficient? Yeah, that's really the question at hand.
Like list of applicable boards and commissions provided in the recommendation. Well, I'd love for them to provide us a new list.
It's changing
Yes.
rapidly. And so with that, this year, still required to do the KPM.
Sure.
The following year, will still be required to do the KPM. The timing it takes to officially have the KPMs modified, it will not be until review and approval of our next biennial budget.
Unless it's exempted.
Unless they decide that it's.
In which
exempt.
case, we can do it as we desire in conformance with our board policy manual.
Yes, but I do believe it would still go through the formal KPM process that would,
That would drop it.
It would be in place at minimum until July of 2027.
Oh,
Because that's
really?
when we would have, because they're a part of this budget in our KPMs. So that's when it would officially be on the opposite.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I have a dumb little one. This may be like agency, like practice, but I'm used to seeing addenda as a plural and addendum as a single. And like, these all reference addenda G, and I think it should probably be addendum G.
it was from the board policy manual.
This is Clark's fault.
I just called it exactly what it was here.
Yeah, that's fine. I
If you
just,
make any of those minor edits, you bet.
yeah, I just.
No, I had wondered about that. Yeah.
Among the addenda, this is addendum G.
That's fine.
I like that.
So anytime before this goes out, as part of formal review and approval, you know, make any of those changes, I certainly make that correction immediately.
Okay.
And so, thank you. I was gonna point out the time too. And so, if this is enough
This
for
is
the
great.
year, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, Sabrina,
Yes.
for wrangling this, or continue to wrangle this.
It's gonna be.
I feel like we're moving in the right direction. It's a good place. Okay. Moving on to the new board member orientation packets.
Hey, just real quickly, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
The board policy manual, Sabrina, are you involved in this at all? No, okay, then you're fine. I think there was a couple changes that we failed to capture. And I don't know if in the agenda we're coming back to that.
No, let's try to catch that.
Okay,
Right
you
now.
want to do that right now?
Yeah.
The only two I noticed that we discussed is if you go to 4.3. And this comes up again in 4.5. I think we discussed in full circumstances that there may be something between, suspension or termination, and
Yeah, we had,
did.
And
we had updated that.
and in 4.5,
Didn't get,
we talk about this will also serve as an opportunity for the board to make recommendations for either commendation or termination if the state forester is warranted. And I think we discussed like penalties or something. I don't remember
We
what the
did
word was,
have that
but something
conversation.
shy of termination.
so I'm looking, it looks like this draft doesn't have those changes. I'm wondering if I have,
So what
you have, yeah?
So what I can propose is I don't have the changes either. I was going to propose that, but we do have the video And we can have Ariel go through, rewatch, capture and edit the
Okay.
document and get it back to you.
That would be amazing. So we wanted to try that first.
Let's do that.
That might be
Yeah.
easier,
Yeah.
on all of you.
Yeah,
That's fine. So,
because I think we
very-
were very broad.
Because the first one, I was like, I had the first one I was doing on my
Yeah,
computer, but
okay.
the when we made those edits, it was, Denise was doing it, on her
Right.
computer.
yes,
So
that'd be
yeah,
great. Sorry to put that on you.
No, I think that was right.
Yeah. thanks for catching
Were
that.
you sharing on off your screen at the last meeting?
Not the last meeting. The first of the meetings when we made most of these edits, I was sharing my screen and I was typing
Okay.
Yeah,
kind of ham-fistedly.
Yeah.
And then, the second meeting when we made these other subsequent changes, Denise was doing.
We'll get it caught up.
was it Denise or was it, did we actually have, what's her name, the prior gal?
Elaine?
Elaine joined.
No, it was.
Was it Denise?
The lady was gone.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, and so I feared some of that may not have been captured.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're going a whole walkthrough.
okay, great, thank you.
Thanks for catching that.
Yeah.
Good one.
Okay.
Thanks.
I was just gonna,
Big butt.
We have this lovely green board, board member orientation. I don't have any substantive edits today.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Does ODF have, or does the state of Oregon have a short linking tool? You know what I mean? Like bit.ly, right? But for ODF or Oregon.gov. The only reason I suggest that is that in some places in here, I can envision, and it is highly likely had I received this as a board member, I would have been reading a printed copy of it. And we have both hyperlinks that are underlined, and then we have the written out links.
Yes.
And some of these written out links are actually very long.
Yes.
It had occurred to me that it may be helpful to use short links.
Well,
written
QR
out
codes.
or QR
Yeah,
It would
codes.
be, QR codes would be much easier because you could just,
When there's like a list like this, it may be hard to put like
oh,
5 QR
Yeah.
codes, but you could follow it with 5 short links, where somebody could actually type that into the browser. So I leave that to you guys. I'm not like super invested in that, but in some places you actually have written out the entire hyperlink, in which case that would also be a really nice solution.
There might be an option on ODF's public page to be able to take all the links that are in this document and have it as an internal Board of Forestry
Yeah.
resource and have a QR code that connects to that.
That would actually work as well.
Yeah. We can, let's explore.
Because otherwise, if I'm reading this and I have,
aerial project.
oh,
Yep.
see GSA website, I'm like, gosh, shit, or the located here with here underlined, I'm like, what is that gonna be?
Yeah, it doesn't help you when it's in a flip form.
Yeah.
Because you can't even hover and look for the link.
Otherwise, this is delightful.
Yes.
This is
Yeah.
really well done and so much better
Better
than
than the other.
what I got.
Yeah.
And so I did have a question. I was making my edits on that last
The older
version
version.
that Denise, well, I don't think it was older, but I just want to make sure that there were different pages where we still had points to state forester that needed to be changed. And then just the updates on different chairs and people in positions. I'm just assuming that those will be updated and changed. And then the last piece, because I really.
You have particular pages?
I
That
did,
was,
but it was on, page 18, it was on the online version, that she sent, and they don't match here now.
Hmm.
So maybe it was the older version.
yeah. The older version was very out of date.
Yeah.
Right,
This, I haven't found anything that feels
okay,
much.
all right.
feels-
You know,
We'll check for some of
Yeah,
those
check.
references for hiring and that,
and
hiring
then,
and supervision.
I did like the list of key staff, but you know, for me, I do like, a little, organizational tree. So I don't know if that's something really simple
Yep.
to put with that, and then you can see what the hierarchy is.
Yep, we have a top line work chart. we can
Yeah,
send.
if you can add
Yeah,
that, that.
yeah,
would be
Kate just shared one last week.
Yeah, she
did.
It would be,
Yeah,
yeah.
I saw.
And I guess you're right, Liz, that like the board governance committee still has Brenda as chair.
Yeah, and so there's that, there was a couple of them, I saw.
So we'll check the ODF staffing too, because we changed things so much
I
that
know, yeah.
the only thing that's the same as our phone numbers.
at the very least, you could have a link to whatever you maintain as live. Which, by the way, I've been asking for, I think, for almost 20 years here. Those fall behind. They're hard to maintain.
You'll have access to our intranet since you have ODF.
To your internet?
Intranet?
Our intranet, our internal pages.
Yeah.
I don't
I don't think you do.
think so.
I don't just.
It says to my laptop. I open the screen and it's just,
So it was enough. Executive team meeting on Monday and my computer shut down because every 14 days we have to do our mandatory restarts. Like you have 15 minutes to close all your stuff in those sheets.
yeah.
It's like, most of the meetings.
You got another week and a half to brave like that.
It's crazy. Well. Just like mandatory training under the water. It's good.
Okay,
Okay, so good.
But, you know,
there's a couple little tweaks you're gonna make,
Yeah.
but we're in a home stretch on this.
Good.
Thank you. Okay, so now the, good.
So are you doing it with me then? For this? Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
And this goes without saying, but we're all resources for you as you're coming up to speed.
Oh, we're gonna give you a lot to do.
To do, but if you need to call or email us with questions, I don't want to necessarily speak for everybody, but I kind of probably do. We're here for you.
Yeah.
There's a lot to learn and been at this 5 years. I feel free to use us as resources.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
So the board agenda development, this is tricky. I don't know that there's a perfect way to do this. I changed some language from our draft that we had at our last meeting. What I'm trying to do here is basically it is owned by the chair, who will work in collaboration with department staff and in consultation with the entire board. That's the spirit.
That's great.
That I feel like captures it. There's a little bit of sort of mechanics below that.
Yep.
The second paragraph, the agenda is sent around to board members at the meeting. I have a question mark on what that, how much ahead of time, and I defer to you, Tim, probably, Tim and Ariel, on what that is appropriate there. What you need to, and this is feedback, the chair will take this feedback into consideration.
Yep, that's right.
The board members aren't gonna mess with the agenda, but they can provide feedback that might be helpful. And then the third paragraph is, I don't feel like it's worded very well, but some sort of escalating scale of the more board members who want an agenda item, the more seriously the chair needs to pay attention to it.
Yep.
If it's one cranky board member who keeps wanting to do something that's really outside of scope, it's at the chair's discretion to decide that. But if 2 or 3 or 4, the more it just raises the consideration the chair should take. I don't know if I worded it very well, but that's the intent.
I looked at that, and had just kind of wanted to go back to the really basic piece on what we really want. And I saw this in 3 different pieces, like the paragraphs. I think that this mix of current work, new work, and emerging topics and general information are almost the categories. And I see like a routine part is our consent agenda. I want very little say on that because that's a routine business that needs to get done generally. And we do that with the collaboration of the department staff. And I think collaboration is something that I'm driving for in this piece. Then, we have the emerging topics and, that I see is another key staff thing, the HCP, getting the rulemaking, those things that are, that need thought and information and, more engagement, from the board. So that's kind of a second thing. But then, so my experience in the last little over 4 years has been when we get to what we're calling general education of board members is where we stumble.
Mhm.
I think that that's like, and I think that's where I would put this collaborative piece. And it could be that it's when one or more people, 2 people, 3 people want to see that. And I think that's a structural way to get at, of the conflict piece, because we have had that and people not feeling good when they walk away from one of those presentations. So I think that's where the board and the chair should be very open. And I think that, maybe when we get to these educational pieces, because some people don't want to be really educated and some people could call it education, but then other people can feel it as pressure and being compelled. That's where I'm thinking we need to do something different than the numbers, than a vote. I think that if someone does have something that is a really strong and potentially controversial education piece, then I think that should be explained prior to a yes or no, should we do it? And then if to just say what that is about, and then maybe, and I don't know if this is necessary, but maybe there can be some sort of greater, making the table wider. And if this person is going to make this presentation, maybe we can have a balancing piece as well, like we would do in a panel. So I see the first, mixed, new, emerging topics, fine. But I was just trying to think of how we really include ourselves as a collaborative board and a collaborative chair, to take on these other general education pieces. Because those are, from my experience, those are the ones that that have left a bad taste on us. And so how do I want to be involved in that. I don't want the chair, I think a vote is okay, but it's really, we have some great minds and hearts on this board. And why can we not have that fuller conversation about, an honest conversation about, that kind of, here's how I feel about that topic. And how do we get it on the table with all of us feeling okay about it?
I appreciate that. So one, I'm not afraid of agenda topics that I don't agree with. I think those are helpful. And they come up sometimes, each of us has our pet issues that we care about. And I've gotten a couple agenda. I mean, take for instance, a couple years ago, Kate Anderson from Sightline came and talked about long rotation forestry. She had written some work on that, and I had asked, that was my agenda. I had asked Jim to bring her, and it's controversial. Not everybody agrees with it.
Right.
I found it quite interesting. I'm trying to think of an example where somebody else brought something that I didn't necessarily agree with, but I feel like those foster conversation.
Right.
I don't know that I've ever really had an agenda item that, in the 5 years I've been on the board, that I felt, oh, that shouldn't have been on the agenda. I've had ones I don't agree with, but I've never come across one that I thought that was.
I would disagree with that. I've heard people comment about that shouldn't have been on the agenda.
Okay.
So I'm hearing that, and I'm trying to, we can certainly do that and say we're not, I'm not offended by that, but what are we trying to achieve here? Are we trying to move forward with some sort of point of agreement? And I think maybe that's what's missing, is then we go away, some people don't feel good about it, there's some grumbling, and what have we really achieved? So maybe it's sort of the follow-on on like, okay, is there a point of, can we get agreement on certain things? We never have that discussion. And I don't know if that's beyond our capability and our timeline to do. And so that's that's the thing that I struggle with. The rest, current, new, emerging.
Yeah.
You know, we can vote, we can do all that, but I just don't want to let
Well,
end in the same place, you know, Ben,
Yeah,
that we've been. I want to move us forward
yeah,
as a collaborative board.
yeah.
I wonder if like topics though captures some of your concern as well. That is to say, I'm not sure, I actually agree with you, but like new topics could raise some of the same issues, you know?
Right,
I
right.
think it's really
How we handle.
things that, you know, to me, conceptually, is it on the board work plan? That we set through the planning process, or is it not?
Mhm.
It's kind of like, if it's not, right, then it feels like, you know, we should probably have some more process around that. And that to me, and, you know, I do share your concern that, well, for me, maybe in particular, the topics that I would like to put in front of everybody are maybe even less likely to get the chair's attention. And so, but I, you know, I can see, I just don't think that this language here captures that kind of bifurcation in the way
Well,
that you
I'm
intend.
wondering if it's even necessary for us to take on that first sentence. Like, do we need to say what the agenda is about? I mean, I wonder if, like, every time we put something in there, then what's not in there?
Yep, I agree. The question then though becomes for Liz, if we're going to affirmatively require more than the ordinary process for something,
Mm-hmm,
Yeah,
what is that something?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And maybe, and I haven't thought this all the way through, you know, maybe the bifurcation is it on the work plan or not? You know, that the board set. Because, you know, I really like that vision. I think that the chair should not be a king of the board.
Yeah.
That the chair should be facilitating
right.
the implementation of the work plan and addressing new issues as they arise. But as new issues arise and we're going to start investing time as a board into those issues, it feels like there should be some kind of process check where the board says, all right, here's our work plan. Here, we're going to add that to the work plan, you know, and I admit I haven't thought that all.
Yeah, I do. Whatever it is, if it's the work plan, is that what do we anchor ourselves to? You know, then, you know, versus, you know, I want to, this is something I'm passionate about. I want to put this
Mhm.
forward. It's a natural resource issue. So a bit of a filter is what
Yeah.
I'm trying
But
to get.
yeah, we don't currently have a very clear work plan
I
process.
know, and that's a problem.
It is a
in my
problem.
view.
Yes, yeah.
I guess for me, like I got another agenda item on the tablet last year, the land conversion work around tree, forestry and land conversion. That's a pet issue of mine.
Mhm.
Didn't really go anywhere, but it was a little bit of a trial balloon of, for me, I felt like have a conversation at the board level, test it out, test the waters, see how other people think about it. I didn't hear a lot of negatives, like this isn't something we should be talking about. I found that helpful. It was off of any work plan, sort of.
But today's presentation on the administration's executive orders is not on a work plan.
Yeah,
That was
but it was
just-
being relevant.
Yeah.
So I think Jim has done a pretty good job of really stripping out the agenda of a lot of busy work. In previous years, there was a lot of sort of busy work and we've ended up having some more lean agendas in the last little while.
Right.
I think there's room for some of that new interesting ideas,
I don't
trial
disagree.
balloons.
I don't think anybody's disagreeing with that. I think the question is
How we get
whether,
them on
yeah,
there. Yeah.
what's the process for introduction of that? And is there a gut check with the rest of the board?
Mhm.
You know, it would be nice, I think the chair would benefit if, especially, you know, I'm famous for making people angry accidentally. And so it seems likely to me that if I were the chair, it might actually be nice to get feedback from the other board members about whether or not this is gonna be a big blow up or not, right?
Right.
In advance of putting it on there. And
That's
the
right.
process may just be that, hey, you're gonna float this.
Right.
You're gonna float this to the board in advance of putting it on there and get people's feedback about that. Ultimately, you know, should we require the chair get affirmative endorsement of a number of board members before putting those on? I don't know, you know, I'm open to that conversation, but I think it probably doesn't change much because we're gonna say it's like 2 or 3, right? We're not gonna require a
Right.
majority of the board to do it. That's probably gonna result in the same outcome as if you just had the chair decide after consulting.
I think, and when we've done this, some of the governance before, where we sort of are sort of navigating to is, you know, more input from the board on some of our previous pieces.
Yes.
So even if, you know, it may not make a change, we have someone who is, we're saying, please be open to, you know, my comments on this proposal for this topic.
Yes.
And there's an expectation that, you know, I could call up the chair and say, you know, that really makes me uneasy, and here's why.
Well, and to the degree that that's true, I don't actually know that it's necessary that we bifurcate on the work plan or not on the work plan. To the degree that the chair is floating all of it by us in advance of each meeting, then I think that you kind of get to that outcome anyway, unless we're going for particular topics to require something more, then really what we're just asking for is the checkpoint.
Right.
I agree there. And I think, I mean, we can anchor into that second sentence, you know, collaboration department and consultation with the board. That second sentence doesn't have a timeline associated with. I'm just thinking of certain agenda items. You've got to schedule months in advance to get somebody to travel, to show up, to present. If we shop it around 2 weeks ahead of time and 4 board members say, whoa, I don't know about that. That's a little late to make a change.
Can you say that then? Did you say?
So I think to your point, I'm thinking that maybe there's sort of a tiered process of items that are off the work plan, items that are maybe a little bit removed, require consultate, you know, earlier consultation.
We could do it all narratively. We could say,
Yeah.
if an agenda item is not an anticipated part of the board's expected work plan, and we don't have to put that in capital W, capital P, it can just be
Expected work plan.
their ordinary work plan, then the board chair will give the earliest possible opportunity, you know, to the board members to inform, you know, whether
For
they
feedback,
believe that's an appropriate
consultation.
topic. Yeah,
Yeah.
we will consult with the board members at the earliest possible opportunity,
Yeah.
you know, or
Yeah.
something like that. And I don't know if it has to be early as possible, but the idea being that unless this is something like this, we're driving the train and they're gonna bring something new,
I think
then,
early as possible is worthwhile putting something in there.
yeah,
Otherwise,
you don't want to get too pregnant, you know.
you don't, and you don't want to, the chair's going to know what's controversial. And if the chair wants to slip something through, you wait till it's too late and then you ask somebody.
Yeah, right.
I think having early as possible is probably good.
Yeah.
I like that.
I do too.
So like, I don't know if these words, I will defer to others, but you know, ordinary part of the expected work plan. We can finesse that. And then the other one is earliest
At earliest
possible opportunity.
opportunity.
With board members as early as possible. Can I also say, are you really on into this word owned? I was gonna say managed or led or something
Yes,
else.
good for you.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
I'd be curious what Jim thinks about that. I want to,
Is that?
I think I'm fine with any of those words.
Yeah.
I just, for us to not get mired down, there needs to be a buck stops here somewhere. Somebody needs to, at the
And it
end of
is
the
the chair.
day,
That's true.
own it And when I say own it, I kind of, they own the successes and the failures. If they make a call and it turns out to not go so well, they own that too. So I don't, it doesn't need to be owned,
You
but
can
I'm
just flip it around. You can just say the chair will develop the agenda in collaboration.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
yeah. I should probably get her out, start writing all this stuff down. Be taking notes here.
You can note that in my notes on it.
Okay,
I can pull up a digital version of this and, try to type this out. I'll get all of our notes in one place.
Yeah.
Terrible.
And we should, and honestly, if that's the case, unless we intend to bifurcate topics more than what I discussed below here, I'm all for deleting the first sentence. I actually think that
Mhm.
it's not doing a lot of work for purposes of
I'm
this.
fine with that.
and,
Because it was missing like the process stuff too.
right,
Like current work, new and emerging topics, and general education is missing
There's
like this, this thing.
if we take out all from the mix on, should there just be a general statement about the agenda is intended to, be something for the good of the order, or is there some sort of,
I'm always terrible at that stuff.
yeah, I mean, is there some sort of general, like, we're doing this for good or something? For the
Yeah.
good of the order for the.
Could you say something like, we're saying the chair will develop the agenda in like the entire first paragraph could be the chair will develop the agenda in collaboration with department staff and in consultation with the entire board. Could
Yeah.
you say with the object of
Yeah,
creating buy-in and support for the board's work? Something like that. Just making that up, but
creating buy-in. The object with the goal.
yeah, maybe so with the goal. Yeah.
Creating buy-in and support for the board's work. Okay, and then I want to capture that other
Yeah,
line
so
that you had.
then I'd say like maybe even before the agenda will be saying, you could say, agenda items that are not part of the expected work plan.
Board work plan.
The chair will solicit board feedback at the earliest possible opportunity. Otherwise, the agenda will be sent to the 6 board members by the board administrator 3 weeks.
Yeah, what should we play for weeks there?
Yes.
what's the typical?
So I was thinking through how many weeks I need to work on stuff. So typically, there's the decision point on here's the proposed agenda.
Mhm.
And then the next question that always happens is the stuff on consent stay on consent, or does the board want to talk about some of it? So some of that causes some staff shifting. So if I know that at least a month in advance,
Yeah, 4 weeks, I think.
that would, and that's after we have, staff have a
Yeah.
kind of general, we look through the work plan, this is what we got, we look through the legal stuff for the board, this is what we got, and then the other topics. So if we know any change in that functionality at least a month ahead, because that lets us develop with the goal of getting you all the presentations early and that type of stuff that we're still striving for. So,
Maybe
so
5
add
weeks.
2 weeks to that.
Oh, yeah, you could do 6 weeks if you think that's doable. Like for Jim, is that knowable? I can't remember. Remember when he accidentally sent us the agenda? I can't remember how far in advance that was, but personally, I thought that was brilliant. That's like a really good.
I mean, yeah, and it depends on some of us, like, I could almost tell you right now what's gonna be on the June agenda.
Yeah, I see.
January is that, and that's where the work plan comes into place. So I'm like, okay, what other topics are of the board's interest? And I'm focusing on the general education piece. That's where we really need to know, where I need to know what's on the agenda and what you all want. Because even like we had the meeting today, and if you're on the executive orders, if anyone would have asked for anything new, I don't think I could have got it on the March agenda. We'd be looking at June.
Okay.
So I'm not providing an answer there. It's just just some context. I was thinking, like, we've had 8 meetings in a year. We've had 4 meetings that are 2 days. So we still have that general same time, but.
You know, and if it's for general education, for the good of the order kind of thing, it probably doesn't have to be immediate. It's within the year.
Right, and I think
Yeah.
those things also, you can plan those 6 weeks ahead of time.
Yeah.
I'm thinking you're at 6 weeks out, your
Yeah.
agenda's
Yeah.
80% baked,
Yeah, exactly.
but the 20% is probably not things the board's gonna argue about.
Yeah.
That's right. And I think that maybe that's probably right. But I do think though that with that first sentence, we've kind of captured the education topics. Like we're
Yeah.
getting that at the earliest possible opportunity in
Right.
any event.
Mhm.
Here, this is just kind of like, we just want
And
to
so
see
we,
what's on.
otherwise, the agenda we
Yes.
send to
Right.
the other 6 board
Yeah.
members.
Yes.
Be nice.
6
Yeah.
weeks from.
So I think 6 weeks with
That's 2 weeks from now.
a week for comment.
Do you
Under
have
the gun.
February mostly?
I'm working on February, March. I think we could probably get squared up.
Mhm.
So with, but yeah, it's just thinking,
Oh yeah, February is less than 6
We'd
weeks.
be putting on topics together, so may need some finessing. I say this is a document that you guys are working on,
We're
but
working on it,
continually,
yeah.
what,
Yeah,
instead of it just being
yeah,
freewheel.
so this won't. this
And
won't
it may
come
be
before.
that the agenda is more baked than we might otherwise want because it's only 4 weeks in advance and it's harder to change it at that point. But it's still an important checkpoint,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
still it's still
Well, I
good
think
for the
it's-
chair to
it's-
solicit that feedback.
Because I know I have frustration often. I don't know what's on the agenda until I get the board book in the mail.
Right.
And that sometimes, obviously there's issues with sometimes it being late, but that even when it's on time, I'd like to prepare for meeting sooner if I could. And if I see a draft agenda, oh, okay, that's gonna be on
Plus
there.
that-
I can start
Yeah.
getting my head around
Yeah.
it, talking to
That
people,
feedback
thinking about
informs
it.
the chair too.
Yeah.
We have changed the agenda the day of
Mhm.
or the night before, if you
Yeah.
remember McMenamin's.
Mhm.
And so I think that, it would be good to get that
Yeah.
feedback sooner, even if the agenda is well on its way by the time we get it. I just think that this first sentence is doing most of the work
Mhm.
that you're
Yeah,
wanting.
it is. Yeah,
And then the second sentence here about the ordinary course, I mean, we can just put in there 6 and we'll see if it
Mhm.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 to 6 is, it's probably a reasonable sweet spot.
And I think a week for feedback would be enough.
Oh,
Yeah.
more than enough. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think we can't give many more than that.
And some additional context as we go through this, and this doesn't have to go into here, but it's kind of like, okay, what is the chair delivering to you? Is it a list of the topics for consent and the topics for the discussion? Is it a list of how much time's allocated? I mean, it's the agenda.
Right.
So that would be something to think about, and maybe as you talk through this.
The draft agenda will be sent to
Yes.
6 board members.
It's the draft agenda, yes.
Okay.
And I do think it should include time because there have been multiple circumstances already in my short tenure where I could have told Jim we were going to be done in 20 minutes versus I could have told them this is going to be 2.5 hours.
Right, yeah.
And it seemed he wasn't aware of that. And so I think that would be good feedback from the board.
Yeah.
The draft agenda, sorry,
Yeah.
before we leave that, the draft agenda, including topics and time windows.
So, just a little step back and a little higher view on this. I've heard you say a number of times, Steve, time management, we can do this much quicker, whatever. And I like that because what I want to get us to is more quality discussion on certain things.
agree.
And so I just put that out there. I don't think we have to do with it, but I think as we refine this, it's like, how do we make the most use of the talents that we bring from our different views? to actually come in, drive the 4 hours here and then drive the 4 hours back.
Not just to listen to stuff.
Listen to stuff
Yeah.
and just have a conversation with you all.
That makes
How do we do
perfect
that?
sense in here, right?
Yeah, I mean,
To your
that's what I
point,
like.
probably the reason your, what was the word you go, fragmentation conversation doesn't really go anywhere is because all we do on this board is schedule the information topic. We don't actually spend any time developing a work plan. It's like, actually getting to the work we're otherwise be doing,
Yeah,
which scares me, of course, a little bit. It's about that, but
we can get to it. But that's,
Mhm.
that is driving me
Yeah.
when we talk about governance and how we
I mean, is
work
it,
with each other.
is it worth putting a sentence at the top? Something along the lines of, this is a policy board. And the goal of our meetings is to have adequate time for board discussion. Something, I don't know, that's not quite right.
the way
but
you say it is by
Yeah.
prioritizing.
By
Agendas
prioritizing,
should prioritize, deliberation and,
Yeah,
consultative work as opposed to.
yeah.
deliberation.
So maybe that is the first sentence that sort of, instead of that other first sentence I had, that sort of tries to set the tone.
Yeah, you could even say something, you could just set it up, you could say like, the board meetings are, and these are not the right words, but you say board meetings are precious time. And agenda development, is an important tool for maximizing the value of that time.
Yeah, well, I do like what you say, prioritizing deliberate conversation.
To that
among
effect,
board members.
agendas should prioritize.
It's like presentation, Q&A, deliberation. Built in and and having those timelines ahead of time will help with
Versus
allocating.
you end a presentation and
Yeah.
1 or 2 questions and then we're on to the next. And that to me, I mean, there are things that we can deal real swiftly with, but then we should know and we will know the ones that we like,
Mhm.
let's go deeper into that one.
So to that effect, the agenda should prioritize, what was that, deliberation?
Yeah, it's like board member deliberation and feedback. I was gonna say, it'd be nice to have another shun.
Yeah.
Like consultation.
Consultation, deliberation and consultation.
I never draft very well out of my head.
Okay,
To me, that it's like deliberate and consultation, and it's toward, to me, and I need to use that word again, but it's, to effective collaboration. I mean, the outcome is we want to.
Could
Is
you
there a
just
better
say,
word than club?
could you say deliberation and substantive engagement?
Yeah, I like that.
yeah,
Prioritizing deliberation and substantive engagement.
Engagement, I like.
so, and that, I have board meetings for precious time, and agenda development is an important tool for prioritizing that time. I'm gonna pull that back out because it doesn't quite feel right. The spirit is there, the words aren't quite there.
Yep. No, I get it.
The agenda should prioritize deliberation and substantive engagement.
Agendas should.
The agendas. Agenda, yeah. Agenda, no, I mean, have to say the agenda should prioritize deliberation and substantive engagement. Oh,
My own board members, I mean, to be inclusive.
Yeah, that's good.
So just for the record in the video, 3:20.
okay.
Folks who are just, not that I'm cutting you all off.
Yeah, no worries. This
So
is
go-
the.
we're very close here.
Okay, should I read through what I've got?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, honestly, I'm willing to trust you to take a shot at it. I think we should get to this third paragraph and kind of discuss.
Okay.
those
Let's get the
mechanics
third
real quick.
paragraph real
Yeah.
quick.
And
Yeah.
then you can kind of send that out to us and maybe we can provide you some feedback.
So I guess that since we're right here with time, we could try to power through and get something ready to share with the board in February. Or we could, because we already are having an agenda item for a couple other things. Or we could punt this, in which case it's gonna be, I don't know when it is with.
With sincere apologies, like just the way I work, I feel like even if we power through, I'm gonna
We
need
want
an
more around.
opportunity to
Perfect.
look at it and think about
Yeah.
it.
Perfect. Yeah, no, that's great.
Otherwise, I'm gonna screw it up.
Yeah, that's good. Third paragraph.
Yeah. You know, I think you're close here. I don't think the wording works very well. Yeah, the more board members strongly request, I think you could say, like, gosh, what would it be? It would be, because, right, there's some ambiguity there. It's like, if Heath requested a whole bunch of times, does that mean I have more board members than Heath and Liz? Like, it's like, I think what you're trying to say is that, and I don't know that you need to, like, within 2 meetings, I don't know if you need a concrete number. I
That's fine,
like within
yeah.
a reasonable time works for me. And I like the thrust of your comment. And has it come up in your experience on the board where, you know, because it's been understood that if 2 members or more request a topic, they get it. And I'm not sure that should be the case. Like, I
No,
think maybe
so
this is better.
I did some digging on that, because that actually, the only place that was ever put in writing was a 2020 MOU, sort of board MOU that they wrote out. And it feels antagonistic,
Yeah, right.
sort of divide, it feels like any two. So when I realized that wasn't actually a statute or a rule, I pulled back from that to try to get the spirit of it without the sort of legalistic
Yeah, yeah, I think that's
part
right.
of it, which I think is helpful. Because otherwise, board member, you're always, gonna shop for another, see if you can get a co-sponsor for your agenda item, and it doesn't feel like in the spirit of this.
I agree.
Yeah, what is the word? When
It just maybe if multiple board members, I mean, you could ask,
Yeah.
the other, one item is, tracking for kind of building out topics of interest to the board.
Mhm,
That
Yeah.
as part of, as a landing spot on the board work plan too,
mhm.
as a place where the chair or the board can grab onto things. when they see something. So I mean, so could that
Yeah.
facilitate some of this, like if board members have to identify topics of interest that the chair will work with the state forester on.
Yeah, but that's
Allocating time.
in the work plan development process
That's
at the board planning
Mhm,
meeting,
mhm.
right? Like, if we bring topics there and say, hey, guys, I want to do a fragmentation educational topic as a potential on-ramp for doing some work on that in our next
Mhm.
work
And over the
plan.
next course of the next year.
Would you like to do that? And they say yes, then I think that is an ordinary part of the expected work plan, right? And which would just.
Which is less about
4 to 6
agenda
weeks.
development and more about work plan.
Yes, that's exactly right.
So.
I'm just thinking like, but this is, there needs to be some mechanism to deal with some board member wants to get something on the agenda outside of all other systems.
Yeah, could you say the larger the fraction of the board requesting the item?
Yeah. You know.
I like the multiple board members.
Yeah, well,
Because-
but I
But
think
I
his
don't want-
point is like 4 is more than 2.
But I don't wanna, I wanna make it okay for a single board member to request something.
To just.
We're not
request-
saying that the chair is gonna say yes, but we're saying that it is absolutely okay for any board member to ask.
You kind of have that in your, just straight up in your first sentence.
Right.
But then you follow up with, hey, if there's more.
But that's why the jointly, or
Mhm.
there's the 1, there's the 2, there's the 3, there's the 4.
Right.
I don't want to buttonhole us into
I
any
agree.
particular
Yeah.
formula.
But we do want to express that 4 members requesting something is more consequential than 2.
Which is more consequential than
Than
one.
1, yes, exactly. And I totally agree with
Yeah.
the thrust of that. I was just trying to grapple with
When
that.
there's a consequential number of board members request.
Yeah, I actually
mean,
like
it
the
is-
way he's saying it. The more board members there are wanting something, the more he should feel compelled to respond to it. And it's just a
the
question,
response.
how do you write that?
When the response should honor or respond, because what are we saying here? That he must do it if, or he or she must do it if.
Yeah, the more the chair should honor, that doesn't work. Honor is sort of a yes or no.
Yeah.
Um, the more the chair
It
should,
works pretty well.
was that?
I actually think it works pretty well.
Okay.
I
What does
kind of
on
like
mean
it.
to you? Does it mean like
Well, I mean,
he or she will do it?
I think it does mean he will do it, but it's qualified by the
Yeah.
more,
Mhm.
right? That is to say, the more members there are wanting an outcome, the more compelled he should feel to
Okay.
do it.
Mhm.
And I'm struggling with the words and I usually draft on a computer.
Oh,
But I think what was important here is for us to all come to terms with that, and
Mhm.
I'm happy to send you some language
Please.
even
Yeah.
in a couple days. And
Yeah.
I think if we're all on board though,
Yeah.
with that framing, that is
Mhm.
to say that 4 is more than 2 and 2 is more than
Yeah.
1, and the more board members there are desiring an outcome,
Yeah.
the more the board should feel compelled to
And it-
reduce that
And it
outcome.
doesn't preclude, Ben, what you're saying, if you as an individual
Yes.
want a bit, you can still come forward. and
Yes.
say, "You know, I really want
And
this."
with knowing full well that with one, just one person wants an agenda, and
Yeah.
the board might, the chair might say no,
Right,
which is acceptable.
right,
Um,
but that's still okay for you to go and say,
Yeah.
And
I'm
you're,
not wasting your time.
and you're giving it
Yes,
the
yeah.
off ramp with the second to last sentence there,
Okay,
you know?
The final agenda discussion.
Yeah.
yes,
So it's kind of all, this is all just ordinal. This is all just kind of directional.
Yeah, it is.
So that's a framework.
yeah, it's,
Um,
yeah,
So with that then, I would be happy to kind of shoot you something
Okay.
and then you can take feedback from others and then
yeah,
without serial communications here, you know, you can propose something to everybody
Okay.
coming out of that.
Yeah.
And then again, like I say, if that means it's too late for February, personally, I'm fine.
Mhm.
yeah.
We kind of play the long ball on this. And we come back in March, right?
Yeah,
And is there also one in April that I see?
no,
In May.
Yeah.
Do we have, is it March and then June, or is there something in
It's gonna be
between
March and June,
March.
unless there's a special board meeting.
for state forest stuff?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so we can do something in March on this as well,
Yeah.
but to the degree that's gonna be necessary. Actually, let's just say that's going to be necessary.
Mhm.
Would you relay that to the chair?
So on this topic, what,
Thank you, Ben, for putting this work on the
Yeah,
wall.
this is really good.
Really
Oh,
helpful.
thank you for helping work through this. What are the, I just want to get on paper the items that we do have baked that we can bring to the board, because there's a two-step, we have to bring it once and then second time.
Okay,
So we are almost done with the edits to the BPM. We should be done with those in time for February.
I would anticipate so.
Okay.
The only thing I had in the notes was the review of the video.
Well, but that's putting a lot on Ariel, that she has accurately captured it.
Yeah. Should we maybe then just en bloc try to do this in March instead of trying to rush everything to February? March and June?
A couple options within the sequencing. I think you need one introduction meeting and
Yeah.
one decision meeting.
Ratification,
So,
yeah.
yeah, so thinking through with the items for March, I would anticipate on the February agenda, you'd want to talk a little bit about the plan.
Mhm.
So what's available and some of it can go there and it could be on two subsequent, it could, a section could be on March and another section on June. To
Okay.
keep the business moving, you could just table the whole thing
Yeah.
and we could carve out some dedicated time on the March agenda for you all to present to the board, to the full board and have some, and then it could be a consent item in June or whatever it ends up being. That's
Provided it's a short meeting too.
Yeah.
If after Ariel reviews it and sends out stuff, I'd be happy to join another board governance committee
Mhm.
meeting prior to March
sure.
or prior to February.
Um,
You know what I mean? And my calendar is a nightmare, but I'm sure we can find a time. And in that way, if you wanted to, for this board policy manual stuff, Ariel could take her shot at it. You will review it. You will send it out to us and we could,
Yeah.
meet for 20 minutes or 30 minutes and give it the go ahead in time for the March
Yeah.
meeting.
So the three things that I have so far that we're in the home stretch on, we have the BPM edits,
Yes.
which are not quite done. We have the orientation manual, which is not quite done. And we have agenda development, which is not quite done. So I'm really looking at this, I'm thinking maybe we just put this all in March. Yeah,
it's fine.
there's no rush. None of this is time sensitive.
Fair.
And
We'll introduce it in March and handle it in June.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So one clarifier, the annual, performance of the
KPM.
board governance, guide, handbook.
the
Board policy manual.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have too much things in my head. That is going as is for your, evaluation pending any changes.
Oh, the performance evaluation.
Because the performance
Yes,
evaluation.
that is going, no, that's not the board, that's the performance evaluation. That is going as is.
Okay, into the current until
Yes.
we change it. Okay,
Yes, that's
that
correct.
works.
And we will have time in
But
June to work on that.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Which again, that's one of two things you should convey to the chair. One is that we'll need, I hope this isn't serial communications. This is just me telling you.
Yeah, doesn't watch.
If you don't even need to communicate this to the chair. Tim, in development of the agendas, June, we should have time reserved to talk about KPM two, and we'll build
Yes.
out the work plan in
And
advance of that.
to ratify these three.
To ratify these three items, and we also need time in the March agenda.
To present these three items.
And it seems likely to me that if we're smart about this, now this agenda development, what could trigger some conversations, but I don't think it should be a big window. Like, hopefully, if we do a good job with this, we could do that in 30 minutes and be done. And so, yeah, that'd be March.
Just question that one.
Yeah, right. Like, Jim may have opinions and we can just outvote it.
I've.
I'm kidding. Sorry, Jim, if you're watching.
Yeah, you're so You should be relaxed. You went on a big vacation.
So I'm we can wrap up here for, I just want to think about our future meetings and the work we still have ahead of us. We have little hanging chads on these three things
Right.
that we can knock through and knock out in a possibly over email and or a very quick meeting.
So again, let's be careful about email. They need to be emails to you,
Yes.
not among all.
Yes.
Maybe,
But we should have a follow-up prior to the March meeting.
oh, I definitely.
Yes.
Follow-up.
So
And if we want to meet.
Ariel, can you schedule for January, can you schedule us in a meeting in February?
Yes.
Yes, that's right. That's.
Would you
Thank
want to
you.
do it like we did now? I don't know what February will look like. Do you want to like take an hour?
Oh, after the
Oh,
February
that's a
14th meeting.
two-day meeting. It depends on the agenda, if there's room for it.
It'd be either a day and a half or a day. Currently, so I think that's the question at hand is because right now we have 6 or 8 topics.
I would hope that we
crammed in.
do a two-day because I feel like
There's
there's
a lot.
enough to do there.
Work that out, and there's a lot of work to do.
We should,
there.
Yeah, so I believe that Keith was talking with Brenda a bit about that today
Okay,
and
so,
some of that plan. So that should be coming out
So
soon.
Keith and I are close.
yeah,
Yeah,
It's up to you
Yeah.
if you wanted to
If
stick
it's
that
a
second
season,
day,
yeah.
stick around for another 2 hours.
yeah,
Then we should, yeah, so that agenda plan should be coming out soon for review.
weather's good.
This is great. In
Yeah,
person,
it's-
it's better if
it
we could.
does. Yeah,
Um,
it's much
that would
easier
show
to
me.
banter back and forth than,
Yeah.
than on a video. It's here.
yeah, so if possible, it'd be nice for us to grab some time to set half of it.
Shadow the follow up.
If it's a single day meeting on the 4th, then I think we'll just have to schedule something.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna end up at least.
I think we should, if it wasn't a 2-day, I would.
Yeah.
That would,
There was a lot that you guys talked about in September that you wanted to talk about.
there's a lot that we want to talk about. And in the spirit of wanting this to be a consultative and deliberative body to have time to talk about these
that'd
things,
be good.
that would be good.
And then if we could end it by, if we can start right at our half day, if that's what it is.
Mhm.
I'd like to get on the road if we like, even for a working lunch. It'd be nice to get on the road by 2 because it'll still be dark.
Yeah,
Now it's some targets.
yeah, and I don't know if you're the one to say this too, but like, if we're gonna have a deep dive on the KPMs and redrafting KPMs at this meeting, we need to have like a framework for that conversation and some materials in advance.
working through those ASAP
Yeah.
as well, along with the work plan drafts and some of those other things we talked about.
One final thing before we adjourn, I just wanted to call our attention to addendums D and E, which we have not started yet. D is advisory committee establishment procedures, and E is board conflict of interest policy and procedures.
Mhm.
So,
Both
Maybe-
doable.
was that
Both doable.
both doable?
Yeah.
So I think February, we will finish wrapping up the stuff we've already started. Maybe after the March meeting, we can start tackling those. If you guys are up for monthly meetings to continue, maybe we can try to just knock this out and then disband this committee, or not this, go dormant with this committee until needed.
April and early May are tough for me. I'm gonna be doing a bunch of stuff.
Okay. And if we miss a month
Yeah.
and come back to it,
Okay,
that's
great,
totally
great,
fine.
great. Yeah,
Um,
we'll be done with March, so,
April's a challenging month for me too.
yeah, so it's spring.
Here goes the week of the 23rd, Japan.
February, okay, no, thank you for letting me know.
So I think we're adjourned.
Thank
you.
you. What did we do? If anyone that comes.